Richard Gere, the iconic Hollywood actor whose career has spanned decades and genres, from the sultry allure of American Gigolo to the introspective depths of Pretty Woman and Chicago, has long been a figure synonymous with both critical acclaim and personal conviction. Yet, in a career dotted with accolades and box office triumphs, one glaring omission stands out: the absence of an Oscar statuette on his mantle. This peculiar void in Gere's trophy case isn't due to a lack of talent or opportunity but stems from a bold, unscripted moment of political activism that led to an unprecedented ban from the Academy Awards ceremony. 30 years later, as Gere looks back on that fateful night in 1993, he remains unapologetic, viewing his stand not as a career misstep but as a necessary expression of deeply held beliefs rooted in his lifelong commitment to Tibetan independence and Buddhist philosophy. The incident unfolded during the 65th Academy Awards on March 29, 1993, a glittering evening at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion in Los Angeles where Hollywood's elite gathered to celebrate cinematic excellence. Gere, then at the height of his leading man status, was on stage alongside actress Shirley Temple Black to present the award for Best Art Direction. What should have been a routine moment of glamour turned into a flashpoint of controversy when Gere seized the microphone for an impromptu speech. In a passionate, off-the-cuff address, he decried the Chinese government's occupation of Tibet, a region he has long championed as a beacon of spiritual and cultural autonomy. "We have a situation in Tibet today that is a tragedy," Gere declared, his voice steady but urgent, drawing parallels to historical injustices and calling for global awareness. The crowd's reaction was a mix of stunned silence and polite applause, but backstage the ripples were immediate and seismic. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, guardians of Hollywood's most prestigious night, responded with swift and severe measures. Within days it was reported that Gere had been effectively blacklisted from future ceremonies, a ban that sidelined him from the Oscars for 2 full decades. This wasn't a mere snub, it was a calculated exclusion from one of the industry's most visible platforms, signaling to other actors the perils of blending activism with award season pomp. Gere, ever the diplomat in retrospect, has described the ban as a gentleman's agreement rather than an official decree, but the impact was undeniable. It cast a shadow over his public persona, transforming him from a romantic heartthrob into a polarizing activist. In interviews over the years, Gere has recounted how the backlash extended beyond the Academy, with whispers in Hollywood circles labeling him as difficult or ungrateful, potentially costing him roles in major studio films during a pivotal phase of his career. Reflecting on the event in a recent conversation with Variety, Gere's tone is one of quiet defiance laced with wry humor. "I didn't think there was anything wrong with that situation," he said, his eyes twinkling with the wisdom of hindsight. "I do what I do and I certainly don't mean to hurt anybody." For Gere, the speech wasn't a calculated stunt but an organic outpouring of conviction, informed by years of immersion in Tibetan Buddhism. His journey into this spiritual realm began in the 1970s, a time when the counterculture movement was giving way to personal quests for meaning amid Hollywood's excesses. Gere's first encounter with the Dalai Lama, the exiled spiritual leader of Tibetan Buddhism, came in 1978, igniting a bond that would define much of his philanthropy. He has since founded the Gere Foundation, which supports Tibetan refugees, funds cultural preservation efforts in the region, and advocates for human rights, a commitment that has seen him protest at the United Nations, address world leaders, and even face detention in India for demonstrating alongside monks. The 1993 speech, then, was less an isolated outburst and more a culmination of this evolving activism. Tibet, annexed by China in 1950, has been a hotspot of international tension, with the Dalai Lama's government in exile decrying cultural erasure, forced assimilation, and suppression of religious freedoms. Gere's words on that Oscar stage amplified these issues to a global audience of millions, but at a personal cost. He later elaborated that the ban felt like a timeout, a period of enforced reflection that, ironically, deepened his resolve. During those years, Gere channeled his energies into independent films and stage work, earning a Tony Award for his Broadway revival of Chicago in 1996, but the Oscar oversight lingered as a symbol of Hollywood's discomfort with politically charged stars. It wasn't until 2003, a decade after the incident, that Gere tentatively returned to the Oscars as a presenter, but the full thaw came in 2013 when he attended as a nominee for Arbitrage. Walking the red carpet, he quipped to reporters, "It seems that if you stay long enough they forget that they have banned you." The line, delivered with his signature charm, underscored a career resilient enough to weather institutional rebukes. This reflection arrives at a poignant moment for Gere, now 76, as he steps into the role of executive producer for The Wisdom of Happiness, a documentary that intimately chronicles the life and teachings of his dear friend, the Dalai Lama. Released theatrically on October 16, 2024, the film is more than a biographical sketch. It's a heartfelt exploration of joy amid adversity, drawing on the Dalai Lama's philosophy of compassion as an antidote to suffering. Gere's involvement is deeply personal. He first met the Dalai Lama at a time when his own life was unraveling under the glare of fame, and their friendship has been a steadying force ever since. "I've never worked this hard to get a film that I've been associated with to be seen in the world," Gere confessed in promotion for the project. His voice carried the weight of someone who has stared down censorship in exile, both literal and metaphorical. The documentary delves into the Dalai Lama's early life in Tibet, his flight to India in 1959 following the Chinese invasion, and his unwavering message of nonviolence, themes that echo Gere's own 1993 stand. Producing The Wisdom of Happiness required Gere to navigate a labyrinth of distribution challenges, particularly in markets sensitive to Tibetan issues. China, a juggernaut in global box office revenue, has routinely blacklisted films sympathetic to the Dalai Lama, from 7 Years in Tibet, which starred Brad Pitt and was banned in 1997, to Kundun, directed by Martin Scorsese in 1997, which led to Disney's offices in China being shuttered temporarily. Gere, drawing on lessons from his Oscar ban, approached these hurdles with strategic patience. "I think this is important enough that I have to give my last bit of energy to put this out there for people to see," he said. "At the very least, it will put a seed in the minds of people who see it." The film's reception has been warmly positive in Western markets, praised for its intimate access to the now 89-year-old Dalai Lama, whose humor and humility shine through interviews conducted in his Dharamshala home. Critics have lauded how it humanizes a global icon, showing him not just as a political figure but as a man who finds levity in life's absurdities, much like Gere himself.